We just stepped on their face with a hobnail boot and broke their nose. We just crushed their face.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Glory UGA podcast, brought to you by our good friends MyBookie and Alumni Hall. And obviously, we got a big game coming up this weekend with Georgia and Alabama facing off in a rematch in Atlanta for the SEC title. But I'm going to delay my official prediction episode for that game by one day, only one day, in order to do something that I don't really, quite frankly, ever do here during the college football season, and that's talk some college football recruiting. We do that a lot during the offseason, the summer, but not so much during the season. I like to focus my attention on what's actually going on the field while we actually have real games to talk about. But I'm making this exception today because, as all of you will almost certainly know by now, the crown jewel, what was the crown jewel of Georgia's 2026 recruiting class, number one quarterback, top three recruit nationally, five-star prospect, Jared Curtis has now officially decommitted from the Dawgs and flipped to Vanderbilt. So today on the show, we're going to dive into why did this happen? How did it happen? What does it mean for the Georgia football program? And what does Georgia do from here? We're going to break all that down. But first, if you are a diehard Georgia fan, I know I'm not coming to you under the greatest terms today, but everything we do here on this show is designed for you guys. I'm a diehard Georgia guy. I design content for diehard Georgia people like you. So go ahead, subscribe, turn those notifications on, like, comment, all that stuff, guys. Let me know what are your thoughts on this Jared Curtis decommitment, this saga, whatever is going on. Love to hear from you guys. All right. Again, I know all of you out there are fully well aware of this right now, but just in case there's someone who was really busy yesterday, I don't know, maybe in a coma and just came to. Yesterday, Georgia lost a five-star recruit, the number one quarterback in the country, Jared Curtis, to, yes, Vanderbilt, which, guys, I'm not going to lie to you. That's a sentence that I never thought I would ever utter in my life. But yet, here we are in the year of our Lord 2025, this new wacky era with NIL, transfer portal, this new era of college football. So obviously, when as high of a profile program as Georgia, a program that has won 10 games in 10 of the last 11, at least 10 games in 10 of the last 11 full seasons, won two of the last four national championships, is about to take part in its fifth consecutive SEC championship game on Saturday, who, by the way, has played in 8 of the last 9 SEC championship games. When a program like that, on that tier, loses a high-profile commit to, again, checks notes here, Vanderbilt, a program that just last year, broke a streak of 10 consecutive losing seasons. A program that won a combined 9 games from 2020 to 2023. When a program like Georgia loses a big-time recruit to a program like that, let's be real, a traditional afterthought of a program, when that happens, it's obviously going to raise some very, very real questions. Foremost among those questions in my mind being, number one, why did that happen? Then number two, what does this mean for Georgia moving forward? And then finally, how does Georgia respond to this flip? Like, what does Georgia do moving forward? So today on the show, I'm going to dive into all three of those questions, and I'm going to start off the top here with the why. And for me, guys, like this, I know for a lot of people out there, the why is really where the intrigue comes in. Like, why would you possibly decommit from Georgia and commit to Vanderbilt? Like, yeah, Benny's had a good year this year, but like, what are we doing here? I know that's what a lot of the intrigue is. For me, like, honestly, I don't even really care, but I know people are concerned or are interested in that. So let's dive into it. For me, it's pretty simple, guys. My understanding of Jerick Curtis' commitment for a while now, and these rumors about him potentially decommitting and visiting Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia coming to his games and all that kind of stuff, the rumors have been out there for a while. And we were like, okay, we'll see what happens. And he was saying all the right things. He was still talking to Georgia and all that. So it's like, I don't know. We'll see what happens there. But my understanding of his recruitment for a while now is that Jared Curtis wants to play early. That is something that's very, very important to him. And in the statement he put out there yesterday, that was also pretty clear there. And look, that's not unique. Most high-profile quarterbacks do want to play early, and starting as a freshman just seems to be really important to Jared Curtis. And with Diego Pavia moving on after this year, probably he still currently has a lawsuit filed against the NCAA. So he says it's gonna be his last year. I think it'll be his last year, but I mean, like, who knows there? Whatever. But let's assume that Pavia does move on. Well, Vandy does present a clear opportunity for Curtis to start year one as a true freshman. On top of that, they are the hometown school. Jared Curtis is a Nashville kid, a local Nashville kid. And then there is the fact that they have had a good season. Like, we can say that with a good season they've had, Vandy's been able to leverage that to convince him that, hey, you know what? You can come to Vandy, start right away, stay in your hometown, play in front of your family, your friends, maybe your girlfriend, like all that, right? And look, we've shown you this year, we can be right on the precipice of gosh, what playoff. You can legitimately compete for national championship. Like, you can be the one that put us over the edge there. And they're obviously, you see in his statement, they're playing up, oh, you're the underdog, right? Like, we're the underdog. Come here and you can do something that's never been done here. Pavia raised our profile, got us this level, but still we haven't quite gotten over that next hump and do a national championship conversation. So help us move there. All of that is attractive, right? Start as a true freshman, hometown, play for national championship. And the reality is, guys, let's be real. He has zero chance to start as a freshman next year for Georgia. Like, zero chance. Gunnar Stockton, love him. He's been great for Georgia this year, last against Tech notwithstanding. But by and large, Gunnar has been amazing. Put himself in the thick of the Heisman Trophy conversation for roughly 2 months there. Gunner's not going pro. He's not going pro. He will be back next year. And guys, I just don't see any way that if Curtis came to Georgia, that he would be able to beat out Gunnar Stockton, who had been going to his 5th year in the system, has a full year of starting experience under his belt, and was really, really good in that year. There's no chance that he would have beaten out Gunnar Stockton. And I think if you go back to when he don't forget he committed, decommitted, and then recommitted to Georgia. But when he recommitted to Georgia, yeah, like Gunnar was the presumptive starter, but Gunnar had not like established himself as like Gunnar Stockton, the guy that he is now, right? Like hadn't put together the type of year he has. He came back and helped us with the SEC championship game in the second half of that game against Texas, and played well against a good Notre Dame defense in the Sugar Bowl, but didn't go out there and necessarily light the world on fire. But he hadn't done that, so now he has. And I think you could argue the season that Gunnar has had, as good as he's been, like maybe Curtis in the back of his mind, I don't know what he thought, but I guess he thought, hey, even though Gunnar is going to be a starter this year, he probably won't have that good of a year. Like, I don't see him being that kind of guy. Maybe what he's seen from Gunnar last year, maybe that led him to believe that, Georgia would have a good year with Gunnar because we have a lot of good players around him. Maybe not like a stellar year, maybe not a college football playoff year, maybe not an SEC championship caliber type year. And he would be coming as a freshman and maybe unseat Gunnar. I don't know. But it seems like if that was a thought in his mind, the season Gunnar has just simply scared Jared Curtis away. And look, I'm not stating that as fact. I don't know. I don't talk to the kid. I'm not a recruiting writer, but I follow this stuff incredibly closely. I have for over 20 years. And just kind of reading the tea leaves there, that's my read on the situation. I also think there's this side to it. This is another example of where NIL and revenue sharing strike again. Because teams, they've been doing it for a couple years now, guys. With their NIL budgets now, even more so, this is going to be the case with revenue sharing. Teams are going to have to make decisions on how to spend that roughly $20-ish million they have with their salary cap, more or less, right? Now, will the NCAA actually enforce that? Like, who knows, man? Like, they're supposed to have this college sports commission that's put in place to do that, but they have been under fire from programs out there. So we'll see if it actually ends up being enforced. But the reality is, guys, when you're having to make decisions on how much do you allocate here? How much do you allocate there? How much are you willing to spend for this guy? How much are you willing to over leverage yourself for this particular player? A guy like Jared Curtis simply has more value to a program like Vanderbilt than he does for a program like Georgia. And that's not saying that Vanderbilt thinks he's better than Georgia thinks he is. That's not the case, guys. But Vandy doesn't have a roster like Georgia. They are in much more need. Like, I know Pavia has taken them to a certain level, but they are in need of that potentially transformative player that they hope that Jared Curtis is. They need a guy like that more than Georgia does. The Georgia program doesn't need a transformative player. We've already been transformed, y'all. Like, we won 2 last 4 national titles. Vandy, like, they haven't been sniffing a national title for 100 years, man. Like, they need that transformative player. So from that perspective, a guy like Curtis, if they think he is that transformative type player, he obviously has more value to them than he does to Georgia. Therefore, they're willing to up the ante a little bit more than Georgia would be willing to. And look, even if Curtis doesn't pan out, he probably will. He's a really good player. I'm not going to go all sour grapes here and say Curtis sucks. We never wanted him anyway. We're better off without him. I'm not going to say that guy's really talented. Of course, I would rather him be on a roster than not. But there's a world these guys don't pan out. We see 5-star guys that don't always pan out. Well, if that does end up happening, I don't necessarily wish that on the kid, but if it ends up going that way, even if that happens, he does end up becoming that transformative player on the field. The publicity that comes with a recruiting win over Georgia for a program, again, like Vanderbilt, that's incredibly valuable in and of itself. So because of those things, they are more willing to overextend themselves for a player like Curtis because he's more valuable to them than he is for a program like Georgia. And then from Curtis's standpoint, I think there's another layer to this too. Obviously, he's getting a big payday coming out of high school. We know that. Reportedly, I've heard between 750,000 and 900,000 for Georgia as a freshman, and then it was kind of tiered. You earn the starting job, and then you get more money, right? But think about this, guys. So yeah, you're going to get paid coming out of high school, but the big payday, the bigger payday, comes when you actually produce on the field at the college level, and you earn a bigger payday, right? Well, if you have to sit behind Gunnar Stockton for a year, at least a year, you are going to delay that earning that bigger payday, right? You have to put it off for you. So you're basically giving up a year of that bigger payday because you're not going to be the starter. You go to Vandy year one, you're the starter and you produce right away. Well, you get quicker access to those bigger paydays, so that extra money, the excess money coming rolling in. So let's think about it. The longer you wait to be the starter, the more money you're leaving on the table. That's one way to think about it. And maybe that's a factor for Jared Curtis here. Certainly. So that's the why for me. Again, I know that's what a lot of the intrigue is, but personally, what I care far more about as a Georgia guy, like most of you out there are, what I care far more about is what does this mean for the Georgia football program moving forward? And look, guys, again, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. This loss hurts. I'm not going to try and spin it and say, like, again, we never wanted this guy. He sucks. Like, he's not that good anyway, guys. That's not what we're going to do here. Curtis is really good. He's really talented. I want him just as much today as I wanted him 6 months ago. He's a really talented football player. I would still love to have him on our roster moving forward, but that's not going to happen. But more than the talent, more than losing a guy like that, it's the timing that hurts when you wait until like the day before signing day to say, "Oh yeah, Georgia, I know that you've heard these rumors and you've been talking to me about them, and I keep telling you, oh, you're good, you're good, you're good. I'm coming to Georgia." When you flip on the last day like that, it puts Georgia in a bind because now there's no time for us to go find a guy find a suitable replacement somewhere out there. So that part makes it frustrating. Like if you're like I imagine Curtis didn't just wake up yesterday and decide, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go to Vandy." The dude knew, right? Like just tell the school when you know, so we can like at least have some time to go out and find some, like at least have that much respect. Look, I know that Georgia flips guys late too. Like we're not only the victim here. Like we do that to players to other programs too. But it doesn't make it less frustrating. It doesn't make it less damaging to a class. But while yes, losing Curtis is a loss, absolutely, and I do wish he would not have flipped. It also isn't like this is some death blow to the Georgia football program that we just aren't going to be able to recover from. This is not a loss that is going to preclude Georgia from competing for and winning national titles moving forward. First off, guys, I think this is lost in conversation sometimes. Curtis would actually have to come to, if he came to Georgia, would have had to come here and, I don't know, win the freaking job. There's no assumption, like you can't just assume that would happen. Georgia has a more talented quarterback room than Vandy does. Again, that's another part of why he's more valuable to Vanderbilt. Ryan Puglisi, like does Curtis have a better skill set? Is he more polished coming out of high school than Puglisi was? Yeah, probably. But I don't know if the gap's that wide. I think Puglisi is going to be a really good quarterback. And he's also going to have a couple of years in the system on Jared Curtis when they would likely be competing for that job going into the 2027 season. So there's no guarantee he would have won the job at Georgia, right? Now, we wouldn't have just handed him the job. Like, let's be real, guys. He's probably just going to be handed the job at Vanderbilt. So for me, now, like, obviously, hopefully, Ryan Puglisi does stick around because if Gunnar comes back next year, there's a world where Puglisi could decide, I'm going to take my ball and go somewhere else. That could happen. I hope that doesn't happen. He sticks around to have his opportunity, and I'm very, very high on what Ryan Puglisi can be. I think he has a fantastic skill set. Was a little raw coming out of high school, but every time I've seen this guy, he has improved more and more and more. And what I've heard from people I trust coming out of practice during the seasons, he continues to take those strides. I would have loved to see a little bit more from him actually being able to throw the football, being allowed to throw the ball a little bit more against Charlotte. Unfortunately, that did not happen. But I'm very high on what he can be down the road. I also really like Ryan Montgomery, the guy out of Findlay in Ohio. I loved him when we signed him. Then he hurts his knee early in his senior year, basically missed that entire year. And of course, that kind of hurts your ranking, right? Because you're not putting any tape out there as a senior. But this is he's the Georgia kind of guy. Like when he committed back in the day out of Ohio, well over a year ago now, a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. He was saying the right things. Like he's like, look, I know that I'm not a finished product. I know that I got to come in and work and earn it. And that's why I'm coming to Georgia. I'm coming to Georgia because I want to get better. And they develop players, right? That's what you want to hear. That's a Georgia kind of guy. And he's a talented guy on top of that. Really good athlete, good arm. I'm really high on what Ryan Montgomery can be as well. So if it's just those two, and you can throw Hezekiah Millen in there as well, local guy here in Athens, Clark Central High School, down the road for me. we're good in the quarterback room right now, but we're probably also not going to stand pat. And here's the other thing. Not speaking of not standing pat, in the era of the transfer portal, you can recover from a recruiting loss like this far quicker than you used to be able to, right? Now, we love to develop quarterbacks in-house, right? That's been the trend here for a while. But Georgia is also as high a profile of a school as there is in the country, winning 2 of the last 4 national titles, playing in 5 consecutive SEC championships, the best conference in all college football, 8 of 9 SEC championships. That's crazy stuff, right? So if we need to, we have the ability to go out and get a top transfer quarterback that is plug and play ready if it gets to that point. If we don't think Puglisi's the guy, if we don't think Montgomery's the guy, and we want to go out and just get the best quarterback on the market, if Georgia wants to do that, we can. The reason we didn't do that last year is because we had Gunnar Stockton, right? We believed in Gunnar, and also the fact that he played the Sugar Bowl in the second half of the SEC championship game, that scared away. Like, we were looking at some of those transfer quarterbacks, but it kind of scares some of those guys away because it's more of a risk when they come to Georgia when you got Gunnar Stockton sitting there than it was to go to a place like, I don't know, with Fernando Mendoza, Indiana. Because Mendoza was strong considering Georgia guys. Like, we were right there, but it was just more of a risk for him to come to Georgia when you have like Gunnar Stockton, who like didn't start the whole year, but was more entrenched as a starter than anybody was in Indiana, right? So he goes to Indiana. But if we have an opening and we have a spot there, Georgia is as attractive of a spot for any quarterback in the country out of the transfer portal. And then there's this other silver lining as well, guys, that we can't ignore. All that money that we were going to give Jared Curtis, again, reportedly between about 750,000 and 900,000 as a freshman, that money doesn't just poof disappear into thin air. It's still there, and it's going to be redistributed and repurposed elsewhere. We're spending that money, y'all. It's not just going to gather dust in the corner here. We're spending that money. And now today's signing day right now, like it looks like we're probably not going to use that like this late in the cycle to be able to flip somebody. Probably not. But you better believe Georgia now, with all that money that we were going to give Jared Curtis, we can go out there and make a bigger splash in the transfer portal this offseason here in a month or so when the portal opens on January 2nd. Maybe you use on a high-profile guy in the 2027 class, whatever it might be. Come on, Spell. And then, by the way, come on, Spell, who's the number 1 running back in the 2027 class, was committed to Penn State for a while. When we started to get some crystal balls from him a couple weeks ago, that was kind of, for me, it was like, man, I think that might mean that we might be out on Jared Curtis. Because, like, okay, why would he now be crystal ball to Georgia? Because you're going to have to pay a guy like that. Well, where did that money come from? Maybe we're taking some of that money from Curtis as we're like, I think this might not end up going our way. And you redirect it to a guy like Kamon Spell, who's an awesome running back in the 2027 class. And like also, this is another part of this too, guys. Losing Jared Curtis makes us more of a player for some of the top quarterbacks in the 2027 class, which we're going to have a really hard time getting a top guy in 2027 when there's zero class separation between Jared Curtis in 26 and this guy in 27. They don't want to come behind like the number 1 quarterback. Right now, we got the number 1 quarterback in the 2028 class, and Jaden Wade already signed up. Now I got to keep him in the fold, obviously, which with quarterbacks, you've seen we've had some issues with that. But it does make it more likely that we can go out and sell ourselves to those top 2027 quarterbacks. And guys, the bottom line is simply this. The Georgia football program under Kirby Smart is simply bigger than any one recruit. We've lost some big-time recruits. You know, you lose Tyler Atkinson in this class. You lose Justice Terry in last year's class. These 5-star guys that are home state guys. But no matter who that recruit is, I don't care who it is. I don't care how high profile you are. I don't care if you're the number 1 quarterback in the country. I don't freaking care. Georgia has too many good players. Georgia recruits too well. Georgia has too many NIL resources. Georgia is too attractive of an option. And also, by the way, has a madman for a head coach who is tireless in his efforts to make our roster as strong as possible year in and year out. So this program is bigger than any one player, guys. Like, we're going to be fine. So moral of the story here, obviously not good news. Not what we would have preferred to hear this week. I would have preferred Curtis come to Georgia like he was set to do. But Georgia's going to be just fine, guys. That proverbial sky, it ain't falling. We're good. So that is your brief recruiting interlude during the SEC Championship week. But the rest of the week, guys, I will be back on Thursday with my official score prediction for this year's SEC Championship game. If you missed my preview, that's out there for you guys. So go back and check that out. I think you guys will enjoy that. But appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for being here again. If you're a dire Georgia fan, go ahead and like, subscribe, comment. What are your thoughts? Am I off base here? Is this just a loss we're not going to be able to recover from? Love to hear from you. So thank you so much for all your support, guys. I do appreciate it. I'm Tyler, and as always, go Dogs.
Man, is there going to be some property destroyed tonight. 26 to 21. Dawgs on top.